Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's device management interface call. This is a one-off on Thursday. Thanks for joining. As usual, the call is recorded and will be published on YouTube, so please be mindful of whatever you share or comment during the call. So, our first order of business is that, as many of you know, we are releasing Volta 2.5 at the end of September. And there was some thought within ONF and within the rest of folks to maybe do a release around that same time frame of the first beta version of the APIs, along with some tests. So those. I think the API in itself, to release it, and I would like to hear everybody's opinion here, but the API itself is pretty stable. We're still missing the discussion on the log, which I will come back later about that, but the API itself is pretty stable, and I don't think we need major iterations over that. Would you guys agree?
Yes.
Amit, what would you think?
Yeah, we are not seeing any churn on the API of it.
So so the remaining side of things is the testing. So there are a couple of things here. One is that we do validate the stubs and the protos. So at least like linting and things like that is present, which is good. But what we don't have is end-to-end tests that actually verify things through the API. So there are a couple of ways we could do it. One is that I know Uwe from Adtran is working on test infrastructure for the Adtran adapter of the device management interface adapter, but that whole piece is not yet open source, and we don't know if it will be open sourced in the time frame for this release. So the other option is that we build a mock device management adapter that just replies yes, no, sends events and things like that. That is not a trivial piece of code. It is not big, but it's not like it's not trivial. It's not like a couple of hours. So I would like to hear everybody's opinion on building that, and based on resources that you guys have and / or interest. If you think that's not a valid thing to have, I can push back and say we're just going to release it with the validation and linting. It's really up to you. What do you guys think?
Actually, for me, if there is no functionality, then there's no need to test.
You mean that we don't need the adapter to test because we're actually only providing the API itself?
Yes, if we don't have functionality under the APIs, then the only testing API is, I don't know, it's not required, I think.
May I ask a little question, maybe?
Yeah, go ahead.
An ignorant question, but what do we mean by DM adapter? I know we are talking about DMI interface that
Yes.
we are developing under this Brigade,
Yeah.
and device manager agent that resides on the OLT.
Yeah.
But what do we mean by DM adapter? What component is that? A DM agent on the OLT, right?
Yeah, that is on the piece of software that speaks this gRPC API.
So that resides on the OLT.
It can reside really wherever it wants. It doesn't have to be on the OLT. It must speak the gRPC API we're putting together, but it doesn't have to be on the OLT per se. It
Okay,
could,
that's the component that talks with the device manager, right?
that is the component that talks northbound, our API, southbound, whatever API the device needs.
So Andrea, you actually mean the device manager here,
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
right?
that's what I'm asking, yeah.
Yeah.
Because
So
device management agent is what is drawn as the agent that resides on the OLT in the diagrams or so. That's why I'm just confused.
yep, it's fine. Yep,
Okay, thank you.
yep. So yeah, building basically a stub of our API that doesn't care about anything else. But I tend to agree with Mahir that there is really no functionality being tested here. So I'll see what we can do. I'll make sure that this is working and maybe extend it a little bit. But I would agree that we don't kind of need a device manager, a mock device manager. It could be something to do in the future, but it's not really mandatory at the moment. I really do hope that at some point we have a working DM that we can test with. Okay.
So,
And
Andre,
there's no vision of having the BBSIM support that interface at some point.
We could.
Because you know, having interface that supports on a physical device means we can only test on that physical device. At some point, if we're actually going to provide testing and have the simulated environment act like a physical environment, I would think it'd have to be a BBSIM. I mean, I don't think it's a priority, but
Yeah, I would agree. I don't think we can get that in 2.5. There's a ton of other things that need to go in, maybe sim and other things that Matteo is working on. But if anybody's interested in doing that, I would be very happy to see that happening in BBSim, and I think Matteo will too. I'll check with him and get back on this point. But if anybody has any resources and it's interested in doing this, I'll be more than happy.
so Andre, there's Amit.
Yeah.
Am I audible? Hello.
Yes.
Yeah. So before we start thinking about the test, we first have to define what is the SUT, right? What is the system under test here? And unless we define that, how do we say what kind of a test and what do we mock and what do we test?
So there are a couple of things that we need to test. One is just the device manager per se, at least in my opinion, and that is like event generation, alarm generation, and things like that. So things that pertain only to the device manager. Make sense?
Yeah, but that has to be a real implementation, right? It can't be mock
I
stuff.
mean, you can have a fake implementation that generates random events. But
No, but
I mean,
what would be the purpose of that?
yeah, if you mock the device manager, then the system under test is the controller that on the device manager. I mean, is the say
well, the thing
UI of the product owner, or
the thing is that if you mock this, you can develop tests and then use those tests against a real one.
Oh, okay, got your idea.
And then the other piece that we will need to integrate, and for that it would require a little bit more work, is an end-to-end test, including Volta, meaning that, for example, if we issue an image update through the DM interface, we actually get the right behavior across the whole system in Volta 2 with the device rebooting and everything like that, and pingable or use. But that requires the full system to be there. Okay. Well, let's do this. Let me investigate the possibility of putting it in BBSim. I don't think it's going to happen for 2.5. And if we want to do a beta release, we can, or a 0.1 release, we can always do it with just the stubs and the test infrastructure for linting and checking that the API is the same one. That makes sense? Holger, do you know what's the state of the testing that Uwe is doing?
Not exactly, I'm sorry. I know he's working on it, but so I think he still needs some time. So I'm not sure if these tests will be available or not at the point in time you need it.
Okay.
Yeah. When do you actually expect something? End of September or already?
We plan to release end of September, but I mean, if we don't have the manager and we don't have the tests, we cannot really have the test the 29th of September and call it good for the 30th. We can call it good for the 30th with the stubs and protos and validation and linting, as I said before, but not really with the tests the day before. So whenever they come, they come. And we might release without, we might release with. It depends. It depends, I guess. Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Let me move. I don't see Taskin on the call, so let me move this example of authentication later. Here. And let's talk about the reboot proposal that you put together, Amit, for the Edge Core OLT. For the update of the image on the Edge Core OLT, not reboot. I mean, do you mind presenting what the proposal is?
Well, I don't have any material, so.
This is the file you sent out.
Oh, okay. I think it was copied somewhere in the Google Drive, right?
Yeah.
Just check.
Forgot where it is.
Is that script open or not?
This one?
Yeah.
Yeah, the idea is that it's going to be included in the OpenOLT repo.
Okay. What's still not there?
Sorry, what?
Is it now there in the repo?
No, I don't think so. It's not yet there, right, Amit? It's not yet uploaded.
No, it's not yet there.
Okay.
You find the file, Amit?
Oh, give me a second. Let me look for it. Well, I have it in my email, so maybe I can share it from there itself.
Yeah, I just put the drive path.
There it is.
Path.
Here.
Okay. So yeah, so I won't go through this document. So this document is available. There's a lot of technicalities in there. So I won't go through it in detail, but at a higher level, I'll try to explain what we have tried to do and what we are doing right now, right? And yeah, we'll take it forward from there. So right now, what we have submitted is just this document, and we have not submitted any code changes, right? So what we have captured in this document is how a white box OLT, and in this specific case, the H-Core OLT running ONL, can be upgraded when it is using in-band management. So when it is using ON or out of band, right? You could go into the ONI prompt and you could always pull a new image. But with in-band, that is not a feasible option because ONI working over in-band is not that straightforward, right? Because ONI itself needs to be modified because by default ONI works on the out-of-band interfaces. So the solution proposal is that inside the ONL itself, you create two partitions, an active and a standby partition, right? So you copy the image. So first change is that you modify ONL when you install it the first time, before you install it the first time, so that two partitions are created in the ONL. And once you have that ONL running, right, you could take the new version of the image and copy it to the standby partition, right? And then using some scripts, that is what we have done. So for demonstrating this, we have used some shell scripts where we copy the image to the standby partition and then make the OLT boot up from the standby partition. And once it boots up from the standby partition, we run some sanity tests, like if all the services have come up, then we swap the partitions. So basically mark the standby partition as active and the active partition as standby. So that's the basic idea. So in the document, we have highlighted some of the changes that are needed. And right now we have this thing running, but it is on a version of ONL, which is a little older and not the one that is currently being used by the OpenOLT or coming from the OpenOLT agent repo. So what we are doing right now is we're trying to take those changes and put it on the version of ONL that is being currently used. And we are finding some problems in that and we are debugging that. So once we have that, we will upload the code changes. So the code changes specifically would be the ONL changes, which would be needed to create this active standby partition. And then also the scripts using which you could trigger this this upgrade. So a script which would take in a image and would copy it, not copy, the script won't copy it. You copy it to the box and then trigger the script to boot the OLT with this new image. So that is what we plan to submit. And as I said, we're still working through to make it work with the latest, or not the latest, but the version of ONL that is being used currently. But how it ties with the device manager, that is something that still needs to be addressed. I think you have that as the second point, right? How to trigger it from DM HCore, right? So that is something that we are not addressing right now. And that is something that needs to be worked on. And we need to see how this thing can be automated. So whatever would be the device manager for HCore, right? That would need to take this concept, right? And then automate it. So it could be, so to start with, as we have mentioned here, it could be some Ansible scripts, which could remotely trigger this shell scripts to start with, right? To automate this process, or if there are other mechanisms possible, which maybe I'm not aware of, right? We could employ those as well. But in any case, the changes on ONL that we are doing would come in handy to have this active standby concept of upgrading the images.
Okay. But there should be no issue in calling those scripts from an existing device manager that HCore is putting together.
As in conceptually, there should not be anything, but we have not tried invoking the scripts remotely. So I cannot say that, yeah, it should just work out of the box. Yeah, we might have to do some tweaks here and there to make them work after being invoked remotely. It should still, yeah, work.
Sounds good. I think, Burak, you had some questions?
Actually, I have a question for the item just before that, the ONL update part. So will there be a patch to OpenOLT, patch to ONL, but it is included in the OpenOLT repository, right? As far as I understand.
Yes. So the OpenOLT repository has also has the ONL changes, right? Yeah. So there will be a patch for ONL in the OpenOLT repository.
Yeah, for the time being, there's an in-band management update, etc. So yeah, that's why I'm asking. So
yeah,
thank
the
you.
in-band changes are already there, but not the changes for the active standby partitioning.
Okay.
Okay, that sounds good. I think it would be a valid showcase to have a demo at some point whenever maybe you have it on the latest ONL meet. That would be good to have.
Yeah, we could do that, yes.
Okay. Any other questions on this? I would encourage everybody to take a look at the PDF. It's well described, and you guys can see it. I uploaded it into the same Drive folder that has this this agenda, and I put the document there, and I put the link there. So just take a look. And if you have any comments, please bring them up either on the channel or on the mailing list. And I think me, Amit, or anybody else can reply to that. Okay. So next up is something that I also want you guys to take a look at, which Taskin sent over to me for the review of this call. And this is the session and the authentication that they are doing to Redfish as an example of what we could do with our gRPC interface. So they basically use a token that is carried around with every request following a certain attach procedure. So you basically connect to the device manager, and you have a token. And that token allows you to do any other request and be identified without having to specify again the password and the username.
Aren't we going to, let me back up. Wasn't the plan to use certificates for gRPC?
Yeah,
implementation?
This is what EdgeCore is doing in their own Redfish implementation. I'm not saying that this is the way. I actually agree that certificates is better. And I know that Infosys is working on TACAX for the gRPC interface of the OpenOLT agent to OpenOLT adapter. And we could probably leverage the same thing for this. Does that make sense?
But TACX is using, again, your back username password. Correct? But in this case, TACX is managing the username and password.
Can't you use certificates there?
Not aware. I thought it was going to be for TACX username and password. Because I thought TACX basically had a list of, once you authenticate, it had a list of permissions associated with it. It just seems to me that passing around a token is not what I'm seeing as best practice for gRPC security in other fraud, or even recommended by Google.
Yeah, sorry. So, but I think here what they're talking about is the interface between the EdgeCore device manager and the EdgeCore box. So only on the Redfish interface.
Yes, but I think
The interface above the device manager, which is the gRPC interface, yeah, the certificates would come in there, I would assume. But on this interface, because this is not gRPC, I don't know. I think there should still be a way to use certificates, but I'm not sure of that.
Yeah, I thought that this interface was the gRPC interface.
No, this is the Redfish interface.
So what they're doing to Redfish is their own business. Taskins was showing it as an example of what we could also do.
Okay, maybe that's what I was. Yeah, I'm suggesting that we, in terms of our interfaces, do not want to do that. And others can disagree, of course. I just think we want to follow gRPC best practices for our interfaces. Now, in terms of what AttackX authentication, I'd be curious to see the flows that we're expecting with that.
There is a proposal that the Infosys team is putting together for, again, the OpenOLT agent, which effectively has a gRPC interface. So I'll dig it up with them and see what they are doing and see if it can be extended here and can be used here. Would that make sense?
Yeah,
I would have
seeing what that proposal is will be useful.
Aleo, do you know, is that a requirement from any operator, TechAX?
Deutsche Telekom. At least, to the best of my knowledge. They're doing a proof of concept. There are actually a few patches, if you look it up on Gerrit, that deploy AttackX server in our deployment to Kind Volta. Just uploaded a few hours ago. And I think they're targeting a demo either next week or the week after at the TST, just as a rough idea of what can be done. So,
I mean, I kind of understand the desire for TACX if they're using TACX for security for all their other physical devices.
Yeah, I think that is the reason. And I also believe that if we're doing it for the OpenOLT agent, we might as well do it for this one too. I mean, to be consistent, right?
What do you mean this one too?
The device manager.
Again, I need to look at it. If they're putting in what that means to put TACX on top of a gRPC interface, I can't answer if I agree or not disagree without more information.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, I will try and get that proposal as soon as I can and share it with everybody. So you guys can take a look and provide some feedback there and see if we can use this one and see if we can use it or we need to do something different. I guess this is a more general comment. It's not just here, but it's okay. Okay, anything else on the authentication? My take is that we're probably not gonna include this if we release in 2.5. We're not gonna include like passing certificates around or TACX for this API. We're just gonna have it as it is without.
So the changes that have been committed aren't to actually add it. It's just, you said there's some patch that's already committed.
Oh well, that's for TACX, but that's on the Volta side. It doesn't have to affect us for now.
Okay, I don't know what the patch sets do, so I can't really say that either.
They deploy the TACX server.
Oh, it's to the Volta script you're saying?
Yes.
Ah, okay.
And that will be the one used to actually achieve authentication, things like that.
Okay.
Okay. So Anything else before I move to the last topic of the day, which is going to be short because I don't see Serkant on the call. Sorry, not Serkant, Tuscan on the call. Okay. Yeah, I was expecting an update on what's the status of the Edge Core Device Manager. That includes Redfish, but needs to expose also the gRPC API we are building in order for it to be deployed within Deutsche Telekom, for example. So I have no update on that, but if anybody has, please do share it. Otherwise, I will need to reach out to Tuscan and make sure he joins next call to share the update. Okay. So that was all the topics I had for the day. You guys had anything else on the interface or on the status of things that you want to bring up? No? Okay. Then if not, I'll give everybody 25 minutes back of their day. And I'll talk to you next meeting, which it's either next week or the week after, given that we moved to a 2-week schedule. Thanks, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.